Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing an Icejade deck profile. So I'm really excited to see you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Gloomba. And this deck is an awesome deck to lock down your opponent with, especially since I've included all sorts of spicy deck cards in this build for you guys. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like in your name description of a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon. And definitely give Gloomba some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Icejade Ranagrini. This card is a definite 3 on the deck because this card is a 1.5 card synchro play, which is just absolutely amazing to make your level 10 synchro monster using this card. This card is amazing because this card's name becomes Icejade Eon Cradle while equipped with an equip card. You can also discard one other Icejade card or a water monster to special summon this card from your hand. Then you can special summon an Icejade token that is a level 3 monster, which is amazing to combo with this card because it will instantly get you into a level 10 synchro play because this card is a level 7 tuner monster, making it super easy to synchro summon into your boss monsters. But this card is also great because while that token is in the monster zone, the player who summoned it cannot summon monsters except for water monsters, which is not that big of a deal because that's all we're summoning anyways, so this card is a definite 3 of in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Icejade Tremora. Tremora is really good as a 3 of in the deck because this card helps you get your water monsters onto your side of the field because you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to be able to special summon a water monster from your hand, which is a really good effect to be able to use with this card. And if a face-up water monster you control is destroyed by battle by card effect while this card is in the graveyard, you can manage this card to special summon an Icejade monster from your hand or graveyard, making it so that you can get your monsters back on the field, which is just really good. We then play 2 copies of Cosmoclore. Cosmoclore is extremely searchable in the deck, which is why I'm just playing 2 copies of this card. But this card is amazing in this particular build because it's a part of our lockdown with Icejade Curse. But this card is amazing because if a face-up card is in the field spell zone, then you can special summon this card from your hand. And you'll special summon this card once per turn this way that while Icejade Eon Cradle is on the field, monsters that your opponent control cannot only activate their effects the turn they are summoned, which is just an amazing effect to be able to use to be able to lock down your opponent. And if your Icejade monster battles an opponent's monster, that opponent's monster loses 1,000 attack during that damage calculation only, which is really good for our monsters. We then play a single copy of the Icejade Creation. This card is a great 1-up in the deck because it is an equip card, which is just really cool because while this card is equipped to a monster, the equipped monster gains 400 attack and defense for each banished monster, and you only use the following effects this card once per turn. And if this card is in your hand or graveyard, then quick effect, you can target one Icejade monster you control and equip this card to that monster you control, and then while this card is equipped to a monster, you can special summon this card, which is amazing to be able to instantly get this card on your side of the field to be able to synchro summon or use it for link material. But it's a really awesome card to be able to equip to your cards. We then play just a single copy of Kingfisher. Kingfisher is really good as a 1-of in the deck. It's kind of an equip card as well, which is really cool because you can target one water monster that you control and equip it with this card from your hand or field to it, which is just really good. And an Icejade monster equipped with this card can attack while in defense position, essentially turning them into super heavy samurai-like monsters, which is really awesome. And if it does, you apply the defense for the damage calculation, just like a super heavy samurai monster. And then while this card is equipped to a monster, you can target one monster opponent controls with attack less than or equal to the equipped monster's defense, special summon this card, and if you do, bounce that monster back to the hand, which is just great to be able to use as a combo piece. This card is amazing as a 1-of in the deck because we have so many ways to search this card, so it's a really good 1-of. We then play 3 copies of Agreenie. Agreenie is really good as a 3-of in the deck, and it's one of the best normal summons in this particular build, because if it's normal or special summon, you can add an Icejade spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which can be your field spell or your copy of Icejade Cradle, Manifestation, any of those cards that you need. This card instantly gets you to them, making this card one of the best cards in the entire deck. We then play a single copy of Acti. Acti is just a good 1-of now. This card is amazing though, because if it's normal or special summon, you can send a water monster from your hand to the graveyard to draw a card, which is going to help you out a lot to be able to get additional draws in the deck, and it's a really good 1-of. We then then play a Shark package for the deck. So we're going to be playing 3 copies of Abyss Shark. This card is amazing as a 3 in the deck, because if this card is used for an XZ summon of a number monster, it can be treated as a level 3 or 4 monster. And if all monsters you control are water, then you can special summon this card from your hand. If you do, add a level 3, 4, or 5 fish monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. But for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon except for water, which again is not that big of a deal because that's pretty much all we're summoning anyway. So this card is just a great engine for the deck. We're then playing 2 copies of Dream Shark. Dream Shark is really good in this deck as a 2/0 because it's essentially a cyber dragon for the deck that basically you can special summon itself to your side of the field if you don't control a monster, or a monster you control are water, which is just really good to be able to use to help you XZ summon into some really powerful cards. We then play a single copy of Crystal Shark. Crystal Shark is a really awesome card to combo with your copy of Abyss Shark, because it has the ability, if this card is used as an XZ summon for a number monster, it can be treated as a 3 or a 4, which is really good. If it's in your hand or grave, you can target a water monster on the field, special summon this card from your hand, which is just really good to instantly get this card from your hand or graveyard back to your side of the field. If you half the monster's attack that is targeted. Also, you cannot special monsters from the extract for the rest of the turn except XZ monsters, which again, not that big of a deal because we can just go in for our synchro plays first and then go for this combo later, which is just amazing to be able to do. We then play just a single copy of Gameciel. Gameciel is really good in this deck as a 1/of because we can bounce it extremely easily in the deck, and it's just really good in this particular build because we can search it with Ice Barrier, which is why I just play a single copy in this build. You can play more, but I feel like 1 is totally fine with the copies of Ice Barrier in this deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is extremely powerful in this deck because this card instantly gets us to a copy of our field spell, Icejade Aeon Cradle, which is an extremely important card that we need to get to extremely quickly. We then play a single copy of Foolish Burial Goods. Foolish Burial Goods is good. This card is great to be able to send your copy of Ice Barrier directly from your deck to the graveyard, just to be able to search out monsters from your deck. So this card is a definite 1/of in the build. We then play 2 copies of Icejade Manifestation. Manifestation is extremely powerful, but I feel like 2 copies is totally fine in the deck because if you control a water monster and your opponent has a monster on their field or in the graveyard, you can take an Icejade monster from your deck and either send it to the graveyard or special summon it, which is a great effect to be able to use. It's essentially E-Telly, but your opponent does have to control a monster on their field or in the graveyard, which is why I feel like 2 copies is totally fine. Plus you can search this card off of Greenie, which is why I'm just playing this card as a 2/of. This card is amazing in the deck as a 2/of because it also has the ability of a face-up Icejade monster you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect except being destroyed on the field, it has the ability that basically you can banish this card from your graveyard and then target 1 card your opponent controls and banish it, which is just an insane effect. We then play 3 copies of Icejade Cradle. This card is insane because it's basically the Rhoda for the deck. Let you add any Icejade monster you want from your deck to your hand with a different name from cards in your graveyard and that you control. So it's very easy to get to the exact Icejade card that you need in the deck, which is why I play so many 1/ofs for our Icejade monsters. We then play 3 copies of the field spell, Icejade Aeon Cradle. Icejade Aeon Cradle is a definite 3/of deck. This card is amazing because it has a great ability that when it's activated, you can add 1 Icejade monster that's banished or in your graveyard to your hand, which is really good to be able to recur some of your different monsters back to your hand. It also has the ability if a monster is normal or special summoned, then you can target a water monster that you control, and that monster, along with any face-up monsters that your opponent currently control, lose attack equal to the targeted monster's original attack until the end of the turn, which is a pretty good effect to be able to drop your monsters down, because if you drop one of your monsters down to 0, such as your Cosmocore, you can actually summon out a copy of Egyptian God Slime, which is really insane. So this card is a definite 3/of in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Icejade Curse. Icejade Curse is amazing to combo with your copy of Cosmocore and your copy of Aeon Cradle, because this card is going to essentially give you a one-sided skill drain when you have all 3 of those cards on the field. That when an Icejade or while an Icejade monster and Icejade Aeon Cradle are on the field, your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters that were summoned that turn. And when a monster is destroyed by battle involving your Icejade monster, you can target one of those destroyed monsters and inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's original attack, which is a pretty good effect to be able to use with this card. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Ice Barrier. This card is actually a pretty good card to draw into because it's going to give you a little bit of battle protection, but it's also a great card to be able to use in the deck because you can banish this card from your graveyard, send a level 5 or higher water monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then you can add a water monster from your graveyard back to your hand, which is a really good effect to be able to send the exact card that you need to the graveyard. And this card is great to be able to combo with Foolish Real Goods to instantly send this card to the graveyard and then banish it to get a search, which is just amazing to be able to use. We then play a single copy of Icejade Erosion. Erosion's good as a 1-of. It is searchable off of a greenie, which is why I just play a single copy of this card. Let you target a face-up card that your opponent controls and destroy an Icejade monster you control. If you do, negate that target card's effects until the end of the turn. And if a face-up water monster that you control leaves the field by an opponent's card except being destroyed, then you have the ability that you can add to your hand or special summon an Icejade monster from your deck, which is just a really awesome effect. We then play 3 copies of Gozen. Gozen is just insane in this deck to be able to combo their copy of number 4. This card is crazy because it will turn your opponent's monsters into water when you have number 4 on your side of the field, which is amazing to combo with your copy of Gozen because your opponent can only control 1 attribute of monster, and it's just really good, especially if they've made like a Towers monster and it's the only card that they have on the field. You can actually kaiju it and then flip Gozen, and they'll have to keep the copy of the copy of Gamma Seal, which is amazing to be able to do. Or if you summon out your copy of number 4 along with this card, it essentially like Zombie World locks your opponent, which is amazing to be able to do. I love this card in the deck, and it's really powerful to be able to combo with number 4, especially with the Shark engine in this build. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Icejade Greenie, the Synchro Monster. This card is really good on the field. It's actually quite sticky to deal with because it can constantly bring itself back, and it can also banish cards, making this card an amazing monster to be able to put on your side of the field. It's a really awesome boss monster and super easy to summon with your copy of Icejade Greenie, and it's just such a powerful card to be able to make in this deck. We then play a single copy of Sword Soul Supreme Sovereign. This card can get massive on the field, and it's really good because it can drop your opponent's attack points down, which is really good for every banished card that you have. And this card is just really amazing to be able to play in the deck because it's another option to be able to make because it is a level 10 water monster. We then play a single copy of number 4. This card is amazing to combo with the Gozen. It also turns your opponent's monsters into water, which can mess up their plays, which is really good. And it's almost like a miniature version of Dragoon because it can pop a monster on your opponent's side of the field and then inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's attack, but it only does half the damage, which is not that big of a deal, but it's just really good to be able to pop monsters on the field. We then play a single copy of Bahamut Shark to be able to make your copy of Totally Awesome, which is a totally awesome play in this deck. I love being able to summon Toad off Bahamut Shark and giving this deck a negate to be able to protect your lockdown cards. We then play a single copy of number 101. This card is great to be able to make and take your opponent's monsters. Play a single copy of Nash Knight. Nash Knight's just great to also be able to take your opponent's monsters. It's very easy to make in this deck, and it's a really powerful card to be able to make in this particular build. We then play a single copy of the CXZ Nash Knight. Nash Knight is really good to be able to make on top of your copy of your original Nash Knight, and it also helps you make a really powerful boss monster, C101. C101 is amazing to be able to make in this particular build, and playing this package actually lets you take your opponent's monsters, which is amazing, and it's just a really good engine to be able to play in the deck because it's so easy to make with the Shark package and then backing it up with your Icejade cards. We then play a single copy of Full Armored Crystal Zero Lancer. You can make this card on top of some of your other cards that are level 5 or rank 5 or higher monsters that are water, so it's very easy to make in this particular deck and step into this card, and it's a great boss monster to make. We then play a single copy of Egyptian God Slime. Egyptian God Slime is insane in this deck as a 1-of because this card just isn't a crazy powerful card. If you don't want to play this card, you can change it out for a copy of Zeus, but the entire extra deck currently is water, which is what I was aiming for. But this card is really good in the deck to be able to work with your copy of Cosmocore, but a budget option or a more budget option than your Egyptian God Slime would be a copy of Zeus if you have it. And it's a really good board wipe in the deck, but I really like this card in this particular build because it cannot be destroyed by battle, and it's very easy to put on your side of the field by just distributing a level 10 Aqua Monster with 0 attack, which you can use your copy of your Eon Cradle to drop Cosmocore down to 0 and then be able to link or get rid of it to be able to summon out this card, which is really good. We then play a single copy of Zelantis. Zelantis is just very easy to put on our side of the field. You can actually water lock yourself, which is really funny to be able to do in the deck because you can actually summon out your copy of Coral Anemone, use its effect, and once you use its effect, you cannot special summon back anything but water monsters monsters, so you can actually use the effect of Zelantis to then basically board wipe your opponent, and they can't summon anything back because it's your effect that's summoning the cards back, not theirs. So when you summon out Coral Anemone to bring back your monster from the graveyard, then you summon out Zelantis, use Zelantis' effect, and then it will basically get rid of your opponent's entire field, and they won't be able to special summon monsters back because this card won't allow it because you're actually locked into water, which is super interesting for this card. Its interaction with Coral Anemone. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Icejade before, you should definitely give this deck a try. It's very fun to be able to play. It's very fun to be able to lock down your opponent with this deck, especially with the number 4 lock and Gozen Match or Cosmoclore, Eon Cradle, and Curse. It's just crazy how consistent it is to lock down your opponent, especially with multiple lockdowns in this deck. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part of our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.